The year was 2034, and the world was holding its breath. What had started as a minor dip in the stock market had spiraled into a global catastrophe. The global economy was in freefall. It wasn't just a correction, it was a full-blown depression. The optimism of the previous decade had begun to dwindle rapidly as resources became scarce and international relations soured. In London, the fog seemed thicker than usual, heavy with the mood of a city under siege by financial ruin. Elias Thorne, a brilliant but weary analyst, stared at the screens in his office. The numbers were red, everywhere. A severe recession had gripped the major powers. The inflation rate was soaring, making a simple loaf of bread a luxury item. People's savings were evaporating, and the crisis was no longer just a headline. It was a reality on every doorstep. Elias had studied economics at Oxford, but no textbook had prepared him for this. The theories of supply and demand were breaking down under the weight of panic. He knew that if something drastic wasn't done, the entire system would collapse. Elias wasn't working alone. He was part of a secret consortium, a group attempting to stabilize the market before it hit rock bottom. He looked at the dossier on his desk. It contained profiles of potential allies from key nations. First, there was Priya, an Indian tech mogul who had revolutionized digital banking systems in Mumbai. Then, a rugged agricultural tycoon from Australia named Jack, who controlled vast wheat supplies. From the southern hemisphere, a dairy magnate from New Zealand joined via hologram. Representing the old guard of Europe were a stoic banker from Britain, a luxury goods CEO from France, and an industrial engineer from Germany. They were an unlikely group, but they shared a common goal: to save global trade. "The old ways are dead," Priya said, her voice crackling over the secure line. "The market is too volatile. We need to build a new infrastructure. We need to industrialize the digital space in a way that governments haven't thought of." "But who will lead this?" the German engineer asked. "We need a merchant of the highest order, someone who understands the flow of goods, not just the flow of numbers." To launch their ambitious project, they needed capital, massive amounts of it. They couldn't rely on traditional banks, which were hoarding cash. They needed to create a private financial stronghold. "I will fund the initial stage," the French CEO announced. "But we need more. We need to encourage the wealthy to donate to a cause that looks like charity, but acts like an investment." "We can set up a trust," Elias suggested. "We will endow it with assets from real estate and gold, not fiat currency." They decided to create a new entity, strictly commercial in nature, but operated with the precision of a government. They would commercialize a new trading platform that bypassed failing national currencies. But they needed the public on their side. They couldn't just launch it in a boardroom. They had to sell it to the masses. "We must advertise," Jack from Australia said, aggressively. "I have the perfect slogan," Priya smiled. "Trade without borders, wealth without worry." The system went live 6 months later. It was called the Halo Network. It allowed users to purchase goods directly from manufacturers without the middlemen that drove up prices. Elias watched the data flow in. A car manufacturer in Berlin decided to lease their robotic assembly lines to the network, cutting costs significantly. Because of this, the final product was something the average worker could finally afford. "It is affordable," Elias whispered, seeing the first transaction complete. "It's actually working." The impact was immediate in the retail sector. Traditional shopping malls were ghost towns, but retailing on the Halo network was booming. A massive supermarket chain joined the alliance, realizing that if they didn't adapt, they would die. "Look at this," Elias pointed to the screen during a weekly briefing. A small grocery store in Manchester just joined. They are offering a 20% discount to anyone using our credits. To accelerate adoption, the team implemented a psychological strategy. They launched a massive promotion. Every household in the participating regions received a digital package. It's not just about prices, the New Zealand member argued. People love a deal. Give them a voucher. And so, millions of people received a digital coupon on their phones. It promised them essential goods at half the price if they signed up within 24 hours. The response was overwhelming. The servers nearly crashed. However, the real genius was in the currency system. It wasn't Bitcoin, and it wasn't dollars. It was a credit system based on energy credits. We need to facilitate the exchange, Priya directed her team. Make it seamless. One click to swap your dying dollars for Halo credits. For every transaction, the user received an instant digital receipt. For business-to-business deals, an automated invoice was generated and settled in seconds. The friction of commerce was gone. Naturally, the governments were furious. They were losing control. "They are dodging the tax," screamed a politician in the British Parliament. "We need to put a levy on these digital transactions immediately." The nations tried to retaliate. They instituted a heavy tariff on goods bought through the Halo network. They declared that any physical good delivered from a Halo warehouse was subject to a specialized duty. "Is this table dutiable?" a customs officer asked, stopping a shipment of furniture at the French border. "It is," his superior nodded. "We must impose strict penalties. If we don't, the state treasury will empty." But the people didn't care about the government's plight. They only cared about their ability to consume. They wanted to spend their money where it went the furthest. The economic war intensified. The government crackdown raised the cost of doing business for Elias and his team. The legal expense alone was draining their resources. "Our revenue is taking a hit," the German engineer warned. "If they keep seizing our shipments, our gross profit will turn negative within the quarter." The pressure on Elias was immense. He felt the weight of the world meant to depress his spirit. He wasn't sleeping. The global security agencies began investigating the consortium, treating them like criminals rather than saviors. To make matters worse, the government issued a new Patriot Bond. They urged citizens to buy government debt to save the nation. "They are trying to cover their debt by creating more debt," Elias scoffed. "The national deficit is already unrecoverable. This is desperate." The climax came in November. The government's attempts to stop the Halo network caused a supply chain freeze. Food wasn't moving. "They are trying to depress the market to break us," Priya said. "But they are starving their own people." Elias made a bold move. He went public. He didn't hide in the shadows anymore. He stood on a stage in London, broadcast to the world. "The old system is built on inflation," Elias told the cameras. "It is designed to make your wealth dwindle while theirs grows. We offer an alternative." He announced that the Halo network would cover the cost of the government tariffs. They would take the loss to keep goods flowing. The gamble worked. The public outcry against the government's blockades was too loud to ignore. The state was forced to back down. They couldn't fight the efficiency of the new system. Slowly, the world began to stabilize. It wasn't a utopia, but the panic had subsided. The industry began to recover, but it looked different. It was leaner, faster, and more global. Elias sat in a quiet cafe in Paris a year later. He watched a young couple pay for their coffee. They didn't use cash. They used a Halo credit. The commercial landscape had changed forever. The merchant of the new world wasn't a man in a silk suit on Wall Street. It was the software code that connected a farmer in New Zealand to a buyer in Germany. Elias took a sip of his coffee. The bill arrived, an electronic invoice on his tablet. He paid it with a smile. The recession was over, but the revolution had just begun.